Welcome to this week's episode of Made for Mexico. TIM, this is Mexico, and this is the show where we help you discover if you are made for Mexico. So today I'm welcoming back my beautiful wife, Erin, and our topic is going to be the cost of living in Mexico. So welcome back, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Great to have you on the show again. So in our first episode, we spoke a little bit about, the reasons people move to Mexico. I think, there's many reasons. The heat, the climate is a huge one, especially for my fellow countrymen or our fellow countrymen.
The people.
The Canadians. We want some hot, warm climate, some sunshine, some vitamin D. What else?
The people.
The people are amazing. Very, very welcoming country. That's always one of the things that kind of pisses me off when I hear ignorant or negative comments about Mexico, because I'm like, the people are so amazing, and to have these derogatory remarks, I actually would take them personally. But the people are so welcoming, and that's really one of the biggest things that makes Mexico so special. Mm-hmm. What else we got?
Well, for me, the beaches, the weather, but
being able to be on the beach.
Being able to be on the beach any day.
Yeah.
Those 340 days of sunshine that we get.
That's right. Amazing.
Can't beat that.
Of course, quality of life, is a big factor.
Yeah, different pace of life too.
Different
that
pace
balance.
Of life. Mm-hmm. I feel for a lot of people, there's a feeling of freedom in Mexico that they don't have in their home country.
I feel that. When I go back to Canada, I notice the freedom that I have back home here in Mexico.
Yeah, there's definitely a feeling of freedom. And sometimes I like to say Mexico is a little bit more like Flexico.
Yeah, you've really coined that phrase.
This is Flexico. Yeah. I think I could do a whole episode on this being Flexico.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we need to.
So definitely, the feeling of freedom is a big reason, and quality of life, like we say. And that really, one of the things that part of the quality of life is the cost of living. Yeah,
we get asked all the time about the cost of living. It's probably one of the number one questions that we have about
cost of living and safety, I think. So
yeah, definitely.
We'll have to do another one on safety, but we're definitely not wearing Kevlar vests to work or anything. So
no.
Mexico is much less expensive than living in Canada, the U.S. I think there's so many comparisons. It's 30% less, it's 40, it's 50% less. We have some examples where it's 100, 200% less, maybe in some cases of dining out. Mm-hmm. So it varies, obviously, depending on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can definitely live it up and spend lots of money here if you choose to, but you can also be very thrifty and have your dollars go further.
Yeah.
So I guess, being we're in real estate, I always look at the different types of buyers we have down here. We have our retirees, and retirees might be snowbirds down here as snowbirds, and they might be living full time. We have our vacation property buyers, and we have investor buyers for the most part. So, who out of these buyer groups benefits from a lower cost of living in Mexico?
Well, I think everybody does.
All of them do.
Yeah.
In different ways, but they all do. The investor, obviously, he benefits from a much lower purchase price for ocean front or beach accessible real estate and compared to other places. So just the cost of purchasing is a huge factor. But then the investor buyer would also benefit from other lower labor costs, maintaining his property, managing his property. property taxes,
HOA
fees. So
utilities,
huge benefits right there. Just like internet. It's like $20.
Water.
So we're going to get into some of these comparisons in more detail, but I just like to relate it to our buyer types. So investor buyer, there's big benefits. A vacation property buyer, probably our largest buying group. They come down sometimes once a year, a couple times a year. So they're benefiting from all the ways the investor buyer does, the purchase and maintenance, utilities, but also while they're here, it's a lot less expensive when they're spending their Canadian or US dollars. Mm-hmm. So dining out and groceries and that sort of thing. Lots of lower costs there. And then we have the retirees. So same benefits, purchasing, maintaining, all that, but they're really, they're the full-time mover people.
Yeah, or near full-time.
Yeah, they're benefiting in every way.
Yeah.
Everything they spend is much lower. Their
Even to lifestyle stuff.
Day-to-day life. Yeah. So incredible cost of living benefits. Why don't we get into...
There's some examples?
Well, before we get into the examples, let's why is this so important to people? What the reality happening today.
Yeah, I mean, people can't afford to live how they used to or how they want to.
They can't afford to retire. A lot of people in Canada, the US, and now they can't afford to live. Mm-hmm. You got inflation.
Yeah, I mean, we have nieces and nephews who are finishing university who have to move back home because they can't afford to get a mortgage or can't afford to live on their own.
People are living, they're living with their parents much longer.
For sure.
Yeah. Because they can't afford to buy a house anymore.
Yeah.
General cost of living, rent, groceries, all these things are rising in cost. You have the stock market crashing.
Yeah.
So people's portfolios aren't like they used to be. So coming to Mexico to make your dollar go further, whether you're living or you're retiring, has become even more attractive than ever before. Mm-hmm. And it's not like Mexico hasn't had inflation. Yeah,
I mean, it happens everywhere. And, you have people who have been coming down here for years and years. And there's, they make a comment about the changing in price. And it's like, well, inflation has happened beyond Canada and the United States. We've seen it here. But all that said, the cost of living still remains lower.
Still much lower. Yes, Absolutely. Some things have become more expensive here in Mexico. So, please stop complaining.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Just stop complaining.
Tell us how you really feel about it.
So, that's the reality. Things are costing more everywhere in the world,
right?
But it's still much more
in the grand scheme of things.
In the grand scheme of things, yeah. So, we got all these different types of buyers that are benefiting. So, let's get into some of the nitty gritty, Erin, and look at some costs. So,
okay, what do we have?
Let's go get my favorite topic, beer. Okay. A domestic beer.
Domestic beer here, anywhere from 15 to 30 pesos.
15 to 30 pesos. So that's about 75 cents US to
$1.
Yeah.
$1.50?
To $1.50 US. Yeah.
And in Canada, or United States too, you're probably looking at about $5 for a domestic beer in a bar or restaurant.
Right, and down here, so that peso conversion is about $1 Canadian to $2 Canadian.
Yeah,
so you can get it, and that's obviously not buying at the liquor store. That's having a beer in a restaurant or in a bar.
Yeah,
so you're $1 to $2
for that tasty Corona.
Nice local
Victoria.
Corona. While we're on this conversion topic, I just want to share. This is a little tip hack. You can download an app to your smartphone called XE Converter. And for me, still to this day, it's a lifeline. I can just type in whatever currency I'm wanting to convert from, Mexican pesos, Canadian dollars, US dollars, and it gives you a conversion really quick. So a little survival tip for you, XE Converter.
What else we got?
So beer is much cheaper.
Movies.
Going to a movie. Something
So
favorite pastime?
Yeah. I mean, we used to go to a lot of movies in Canada. Loved it. It's, date night. Nice to go kick back and watch a film. Here, it is 59 pesos for a movie ticket.
59 pesos. That's about $3 US or $4 Canadian.
And in Canada, it's $16 just for the ticket.
You can't even buy Smarties in the movie theater for $3 or $4.
Yeah, that doesn't include the popcorn and the pop, but it's so incredibly expensive there. And here, there's air conditioning, so you can go cool off, and it's never busy. I love going to the movies here.
So $3 is, or $4 Canadian is compared to 16, so that's 4 times, 400% more.
Yeah.
So incredible going to the movies. I remember we were in Mexico City and we went to this VIP theater.
I think we paid for the VIP.
It was more than this. It was, I think, $6 or something. But we had reclining seats, comfortable seats. They served beer to you right in your seat. They had a little table that folded over and you could order a full meal. Yeah. I was like, this is the best. We used to sneak beer into the theater just to be able to have a beer while you're watching. And now you get served for and for a good price. Yeah. They were gouging you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but going to the movies is definitely cheaper here. Even and dining out. You can get, there's a lunch here. It's a 3-course meal with a juice, comida corrida. It's like fast food. And, I mean, we get it delivered.
I wouldn't describe it as fast food. It's like fast, healthy food. That's
what it kind of translates to. But
I mean, it's not garbage.
No,
like we're talking about a good piece of chicken.
Yeah. It's usually a juice, a salad, a main meal. I think dessert maybe sometimes too.
There's usually a little dessert, yeah. We
order it to our office almost every day. Somebody does. It's 90 pesos.
So 90 pesos, that's about $4.50 US or $6 Canadian for a full lunch. If you didn't hear Erin, she said a juice and then
a salad or
a little salad, coleslaw salad or something, a piece of chicken, and then a little sweet at the end. So it's not
tortillas.
It's not a huge meal. It's not a Texas style meal. But it's ample.
It's everything you need.
Everything you need for a nice lunch.
Yeah.
So
in Canada, or US, you're looking anywhere from $12 to $25, depending where you go.
$12 to $25, maybe $30 for lunch. So huge difference. Yeah. Now, lunch, also, dinner time. Let's just say tacos. You can get 5 tacos from a street vendor for about 80 pesos. So that's about $4 US, $5 Canadian. And that's a meal.
For sure.
So, you can have a dinner for that amount. I will say when I first moved down here, I was so psyched about tacos. I was eating at the taco stands every night. And that's how low the cost of living was. I spent like $4 on my dinners, and that was the routine. Coronas became the new water. It was like 30 degrees Celsius. That's 90 degrees Fahrenheit every day. Nothing tastes better than a cold Corona going down, and tacos every day for dinner. Life was good.
Yeah.
Life was simple and life was good. And then, of course, a dinner, more expensive dinner here to dine in a restaurant. You could spend 400 pesos.
Or more.
But 400 pesos is about $20 US, and have a drink and a meal. Now, I'll just say, of course, you can spend as much as you want. There's very luxury restaurants in Mexico, very high-end restaurants. So if you want to find a $30 steak, you can find it and beyond. But if you want to look on the more thrifty side of things, there's definitely lots of ways to live affordably while dining out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What else do we got? Groceries. I think you got some great examples here.
Yeah, I grabbed some examples. I buy my eggs from a local farmer, local area. And
so these are organic eggs.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I think they're around $2.50 US for a dozen eggs. In Canada, they're about $3.25, and in the United States, $5.90.
$5, wow.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of an egg shortage situation there. So I think, the price of eggs has gone up, but very, a lot cheaper compared to Canada.
So that's double.
Yes.
Double compared to the U.S. So getting 100% savings there.
Yeah. Ground beef, Mexico, a kilogram, $9.90 U.S., where in the United States you're looking at about $12.25 to $13. Chicken, $1.87, not even $2 for a kilogram of chicken. $2.16 in the United States, around roughly the same in Canada. So milk, Canada and the U.S., or Mexico and the U.S., pardon me, are around the same, $1.05 for a liter of milk. Canada, $2.40, double.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all in all, for your day-to-day groceries. Now that said, you can go into the local grocery store and probably pay the same amount will pay the same amount for imported items. Of course,
that's
there's
an important thing to point out because
we certain have wines and things like that.
Super Shea or Chedraui stores.
Yeah, there's an imported aisle
like Superstore or Walmart in a way. And they have products from Canada and the U.S. So if you're going to go for those products,
you'll pay.
They're not going to be cheaper.
No.
And it's about buying locally.
Yeah. You're trying to go to the local market.
Coming from the local market, that's where you're really going to save.
Yes.
And get better quality.
Much.
Yeah.
Tastier.
At least your fresh produce.
For your fruits and vegetables, absolutely recommend, going to your local produce area. Yeah. But all in all, for groceries, much cheaper. Your dollar will go a longer way.
Yeah, so you can live much, much better with the groceries, exactly. Well, next I'll talk about real estate, my favorite topic, obviously. I think this is a super obvious one. So if we're looking at oceanfront properties, I'll just give one example. A 2-bedroom, 2-bath, probably our most popular condo or popular size to sell, orientation to sell. If you look at Vancouver, Canada, you can easily spend 1.2 to 1.5 million or more for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath ocean view condo, let alone ocean front. Go to somewhere like LA, spend 1.5 to over $3 million for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath oceanfront condo, ocean view condo. Mexico, it can really vary. Pre-construction, we have beachfront condos in Puerto Escondido for just over $300,000. So, what is the percentage less on that? It's incredible.
Yeah.
5 times less. Here in Huatulco, it ranged from 400, 450 up to 600, 750. I mean, there's some 2-bedrooms probably closer to $1 million even, but still a fraction of the price.
Sure.
You're saving 50% or more. So incredible value buying real estate down here. I will just say, we touched on this on my buying property podcast and my masterclass, but closing costs are something, as a buyer, you should prepare yourself for in Mexico. It's one thing that's not less expensive here in Mexico. But you save so much on the real estate, so they tax you a little bit more.
Balances out.
Well, more it doesn't balance out. It's way bigger benefit to purchase real estate down here, even though your closing costs are more. You're still way ahead of the game buying property down here, oceanfront wise, in comparison.
Okay.
Beyond real estate associated closing costs, I just talked property taxes. I find in the cities, if you compare a city, property taxes are less than Mexico, but rurally you can get to certain areas where maybe they're the same. Usually 0.5% of the purchase price is pretty common in Mexico as a rule of thumb, and you can find some areas that are about the same in Canada and the U.S., or maybe up to 3% of the purchase price. So definitely, in most cases, it's less when you're comparing cities. What about rent? A lot of people want to come down here in long-term rent. So
Yeah, it can vary a little bit depending where you want to be. Obviously, here in Wetulko, maybe long term ranging from 700-800 US per month all the way up to, you can pay 2,500 3,000 if you want to be oceanfront, right? It will vary, but I mean, compared to other areas, I think average rent in Canada for 2-bed 2-bath, Calgary 2,300, Vancouver $4,000 a month, Toronto $3,400, like much more affordable here.
And in Mexico, you can, on average, we say 2,000 max probably, and down as low as some people can find for $500 a month.
Yep.
So incredible savings on rent. And I like your point. If you're going to, have the most really extravagant oceanfront condo, your cost can rise here too. It's been $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month.
Absolutely.
Even, there's no limit to luxury, I guess, even in Mexico.
Yeah.
You can definitely spend money if you're looking to do that.
For sure.
HOA fees.
We had
a good example.
We do. Back in Calgary for our 2-bed 1-bath property.
So the last property we sold,
inner city kind of,
nice neighborhood,
not far from
We're
downtown.
just right by the river and a nice Sunterra market.
Yeah.
So nice location, but we didn't have any amenities really. We had a parking lot.
We had uncovered parking. That's about it.
That was about it. Nice location. 2-bed 2-bath.
Yeah.
We were paying what? $700?
$700. Yeah, 700 Canadian a month.
700. And now we're living in the similar style place, a 2-bed, 1-bath. Except we have amenities. We're at Ziba Condos and Suites.
Yeah, we've got 4
beautiful rooftop.
Yeah.
4 pools.
2 barbecue areas.
Yeah.
Great location.
So similar that way.
Yeah.
Similar style of property. And
we're around 4,700 pesos.
So about 200 and 250 a month. So
much more affordable.
Yeah, the Canadian, that's about 300, so we're less than half.
Yeah.
Over 100% savings there just on HOA fees. So another prime example.
Yeah.
Much less cost of living.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Other
water for utilities, water is a lot cheaper. It's very, very inexpensive. I mean, I've seen examples of, 100 pesos a month or less. It's,
very inexpensive.
I don't know what we paid in Canada. It's hard to compare, but I can tell you it's considerably less here. Electricity, comparable. It is government subsidized a little bit, I believe, but it's, maybe a little bit more affordable than back in Canada and the United States, but still affordable for electricity. I mean, obviously, the more AC you use, the more you'll pay, which at times you do use more, but all in all, more affordable. Yeah.
And so, one of the nice things is being able to live as someone who's middle class or growing up middle class a little more luxuriously in Mexico. Being able to afford a cleaning lady is a huge benefit. I think back to, we were talking about our last condo we sold in the 2-bed. That was a revenue property had. Our last home we lived in was an investment we bought, and it was a little bit extravagant. It wasn't really what we had intended, but the recession hit. We moved into this house we were planning on flipping. It was 4,500 square feet of living space. It was a big one, 4 bedrooms, media room, all that. But I remember I was literally at my breaking point living in Canada, like realizing I got to change something in my life. I got to get out of here. It's time for change. But I was calculating, I think we were spending about $160 a week on our cleaning. So that was about $640 a month just on cleaning the money pit house we had there.
The money pit house.
And I used to pay rent at $640 a month when I was a younger lad.
It's crazy.
I was paying that for cleaning. So I was like, that was like the last straw.
Well, and that was over 15 years ago too. Like, let's,
and to have a cleaning lady down here, we might spend 10 to 25 bucks a clean. That's for a day's work or 3/4 a day, half a day.
Hours, yeah.
So maybe 50 to 100 bucks a month.
Yeah.
Maybe at a high compared to 640 a month. So, there's just so many examples.
Yeah.
We can go on and on how much lower the cost of living is here. And that all equates to a better quality of life.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there you have it from two people that are doing it.
Living it.
We're living it. We're living it up, and in a lot of ways living large here in Mexico and Huatulco. I often say I'm kind of a bad example with cost of living because with our business, I'm constantly spending money, probably a lot more than the average Joe down here. But it's also a big benefit in our business. We're able to do things that we maybe couldn't do back in Canada for a better cost. And so, I say if you're enjoying our content, please go below, subscribe to our channel, and also hit the bell so you can get notifications every time we upload a video. Today, I'm with my lovely wife, Erin, on the show, and we're talking about cost of living. So, Erin, if there's one thing that you love saving money more about here in Mexico than when you lived back in Canada, what would be that one thing?
Okay. Well, I think just dining out, the dining out piece. We love to dine out. We entertain, maybe going out with clients or just our date nights or, just being able to go out more affordably. I think that's probably it. And great meals, great food, great experiences, but
and that's
much less.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things. The restaurants we're in here in Huatulco and Puerto Escondido, and I say it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. It's the food comes out with love, because we're in these little 6, 10, 12 table restaurants, and the owner's either the head maitre d' or the head chef. And so you got all these incredible meals at a fraction of the price. So I think we're kind of ruined, actually, because
we're very spoiled.
Every time we go back to Canada, the U.S., we're just like, oh my God, eating out. It's like, what in the heck are they trying to do with this bill?
Yeah,
it's just atrocious. Just some alcohol, some appetizers. So I would agree the dining out
for me
is amazing.
For sure.
I'd say something you didn't bring up was you've been hitting the yoga and spin classes hard. So
thank you for bringing that up. The cost of being able to go to a fitness class, I'm going to say 60% cheaper. I agree. I think it's way more affordable to go to a spin class, a yoga class. You're doing this in a beautiful climate too with wonderful people. So it's much more affordable. Yeah. I think a drop-in spin in Calgary the last time I was back was, I think $20, $18. And I can't remember how much it is here. 80 pesos maybe. It's much more affordable.
Much more affordable.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, everyone. From two people who are doing it. If you are trying to discover if you are made for Mexico, you can definitely increase your quality of life through the cost of living here in Mexico. TIM, this is Mexico, and this is the show where we discover if you are made for Mexico. I am Brett May.
And I'm Erin May.
Adios.